Today I'm going to be talking about how to get started in real estate with no money. Now, I realize this is a topic that you've probably heard before. It probably sounds too good to be true, but I actually have some strategies that I've done over time that I've actually used no money at all, and I want to show those to you so you can get started exactly how I did with no money in real estate. So to help you get started, I want to help you understand a couple things. Number one, is it really possible to get started in real estate with no money? And I mean really zero money out of your pocket. Is that really possible? Well, I'm here to tell you that it absolutely is. I'm going to be talking about some of the characteristics that you have to have in order to get started with no money at all. And finally, I'm going to be going through 3 to 4 strategies that I have used that took no money and a couple that have taken little money out of my pocket to get started in real estate. So if you're ready, let's go. First off, is it really possible to get started in real estate with no money? Now, I know people have said that before, and it sounds too good to be true, but really, it truly is possible. Now understand, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to getting involved in real estate with no money. Because honestly, people say that you can get started in real estate with no money, but really what they're talking about is a little bit of money, right? Because there are essentially expenses that you're going to have, right? There's going to be closing costs, there's going to be an appraisal fee, there might be some things that you're involved in, but truly there are some strategies that require zero money out of your pocket that I want to share with you. But for most people, when they talk about getting involved in real estate with no money, they're talking about getting involved where you don't have to put a down payment and you don't have to bring in money in order to acquire a piece of property. Now, a lot of people might blow this off and say, hey, it's not possible. It truly isn't. But once again, with what I've seen, and that's exactly how I've got started in my real estate investing career, is getting started with no money out of my pocket. I'm excited to show you how to do that. Now let's talk about some of the characteristics it takes to get started with no money down real estate. First off, it takes an attitude of just making it happen. Really anything in life, if you just go for it, chances are you're going to see some success. But so many people will have mental blocks about getting started, and they have paralysis by analysis. They start to think, can I really do this? Is it even possible? And that tends to create some limiting beliefs in their minds like, I'm not good enough. I could never do that. So-and-so can do it, but it's something that I could never do. And in reality, if you could just get out of your own head, chances are you can get past those mental blocks and dive right in. But what you can't do is play the victim mentality, because there's going to be things that don't go your way when you get involved in real estate, especially if you're looking to get involved with no money. If you're just getting started, it's easy to say this person's fault or that person's fault. You've really just got to stop and own all of it. And then finally, an attitude of just willing to go out and make it happen. You've got to put the energy and effort into it. And if you do that, chances are good things will start to come your way. They say that luck is when hard work and opportunity meets, and I truly believe that. I've met so many people in my career that got started just like I did. They wanted to do real estate, but didn't know where to begin. They didn't have money to begin. So they just went out and started to try and find deals. I remember back when I was first getting started in real estate, one of the most influential books that I read at that time was a book by one of the gentlemen that I consider a great mentor to me, is a gentleman by the name of Robert Allen. And he wrote the book, No Money Down. In that, he showed strategies on how to get started in real estate without any money. And I remember thinking, is it really possible? But applying some of those terms and some of the things that he taught into my life as a real estate investor. Matter of fact, I still see it today with people that get started in real estate. I had a good friend of mine, he and I coached wrestling together. And this young man, he was probably 23, 24 years old, didn't have a college education. But I remember him telling me that he was getting involved in real estate. And he didn't come from money, but I remember that he just had a passion to make it happen. And he started to find deal after deal. And because he'd found those deals, he found people that were willing to invest money into him to find those deals, because he was the one willing to put in the work to do it. And he didn't have to come out of pocket with any money, because people were willing to finance what he had found, some of the deals that he saw that were out there and got under contract. All right, let's talk strategies. Now, the first 2 I want to talk about require absolutely no money at all. The first one is contract assignment. Now, when you go in to purchase a piece of property, you get it under contract. And typically, they want to know who the buyer is, who the seller is. That's the first part of the contract. Whenever I purchase a piece of property, I always put as the person that is purchasing the property, my name and or assigns, meaning that I can assign that contract to anybody that I want to. So what does that mean? It means that if I get a piece of property under contract and I get it as a good deal, and I might not want to be able to close on it, or I can't close on it, I can assign that property to another individual. There's businesses out there that do just this, but it starts with the deal. So my first deal in real estate, I was living in a different state, but I had intimate knowledge of a city where I was from, and it was interesting. there was a college that was going from a junior college to be a 4-year institution. And I knew that building was going on. And I was interested in starting real estate investing, especially in an area that I was familiar with. And so I had saw an ad in the paper, this is a long time ago, and it was a fourplex. And I had called the individual that was selling the fourplex, and I asked if they'd be interested in selling multiple fourplexes, because it was a fourplex development that was happening. And he had said, well, how many are you interested in buying? And at the time, I'd just thrown out a number, right? Because I had a couple of friends of mine that had some money, and they were looking to invest in real estate. And so I said, what if we looked at buying 10? He had them retailed or selling them for $275,000. Once again, that should tell you a little bit of time how long ago it was. And I said, if I bought 10, he'd be willing to go down to $255,000, so $20,000 less than what they were listing them for. Now, when I told him 10, he had said, listen, we're building these with 7 down one side, 7 on the back side, so a backbone of these fourplexes, there's 14. Would you guys be able to do 14? And I could probably go even a little bit less than that. After it was all said and done, I had 14 fourplexes under contract for $245,000 per fourplex. My partners were ecstatic. I didn't have to bring in any money. My value was finding the properties and getting them at $30,000 below what they were asking for. One challenge that I came across is my partner said, hey, we're only interested in taking down 10. So if that means it costs more, but really we'd like to stay at that $245,000. So at that time, there was another gentleman that said, hey, I heard you're buying some property up there in that town. I said, yeah, I am. He's like, man, you got to get me involved in that. So it worked out perfectly. I was actually able to assign those 4 that my partners didn't want to another gentleman, and I signed it over to him for $255,000. So right then and there in my very first real estate deal, assigning 4 contracts that I had under contract for $245,000, I assigned them to another gentleman for $255,000, netting me $10,000 per fourplex. And so $40,000 came to me without even having to put any money down or really even lift a finger. It was all in the deal that I had found. The second strategy goes along with what I just talked about. It is finding investors. Honestly, if you are the type of person that is willing to put in the work and go out and find deals, there is no doubt that somebody will come in as a money investor for you. Matter of fact, I'd come in as a money investor if somebody had a great deal on a piece of property. That's one of the hardest things in real estate, right? It's going out and finding the deal, finding the property, negotiating it. And if you find one, you find a great deal, you'll always find an investor to be able to come in and do that. Now, here's a strategy that sometimes can happen with no money out of your pocket, but sometimes requires a little bit of money out of your pocket. It's seller financing or sub 2. Now, what does sub 2 mean? Sub 2 means subject to the terms and condition of the current mortgage, right? Now, this is a strategy that I believe over the next 5 to 8 years is gonna be one that is very impactful for real estate investors. And why is that? Well, if you think about it, interest rates have risen quite a bit, right? Significantly. A couple of years ago, you could get interest rates around 2.5%, 3%. Currently, mortgage rates are at about 8.5%. For a new investor coming in to purchase a property at 8% interest rate might not make sense. But if they find somebody who wants to sell their home and that individual is willing to sell or finance that property, then that ends up being a good deal, right? You're able to have the seller then become the bank and they finance the property for you. It might not be at their 2.5%, but it might be at 4.5%, which is much, much better than 8.5% mortgage. Now, the sub 2 part of this equation comes if you find a distressed seller that really needs to sell their property. What they might be willing to do is, and it's written right in the real estate laws and regulations, where that person maintains the mortgage, but you can take ownership of the house and you start making payments to the mortgage company. Now, the interesting thing about that is the home might be worth, say, $300,000. And they owe a mortgage of $200,000. Because they're in a situation where they need to get rid of the home and there's not many buyers that are willing to come in and purchase a home at an 8% interest rate, they might say, listen, give me X amount of money and you can take over my mortgage. And that is a strategy that is working right now. Matter of fact, gentleman that I love to follow, Payson Morby, is big into this and does a great job educating people on it. All right, last strategy I want to talk about, and this is a fun one. This is one that I really enjoy, that I really like. It is Airbnb arbitrage. So I love short-term rentals, I love vacation rentals, which I'll talk about in further episodes. But understand first, what is arbitrage? Arbitrage is getting something at a certain price and being able to take that and offer it at a higher price. Now, when it comes to real estate, first let's break it down simply. There was an example of a book that I read when I was younger that helped me understand this. There would be a young kid who was selling candy on the streets. He would go into a discount candy store, he would buy candy, he'd go to a street corner and sell that candy for much more than he'd bought it for at the discount candy store. An Airbnb arbitrage is very similar to that. It is finding a rental, an apartment, a condo, a townhome that has the ability where you can long-term rental that, meaning you rent it out for a long period of time for a year or more. And then you can actually take that property once you have it under contract and you can do short-term rentals in that exact same building. So how does that work? Number one, you got to make sure that the apartment complex or the condo, the townhome, the house that you're renting long-term doesn't have any rules or regulations against short-term stays. And those are usually stays less than 30 days. But just take this example to heart. Let's say you're renting an apartment, a condo, maybe a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. And for a long-term rent, you're looking at about $2,000 a month. But if you could rent that out for a couple $100 a night, and if you had occupancy of say half the month, 15 days at $200 a night, 15 times 200, that's $3,000. So you're paying $2,000 to rent it on a long-term lease, but you're short-term renting it as an Airbnb, VRBO for $200 a night. But you're renting it for $3,000 a month because of that short-term rentals that you're doing at $200 a night for 15 nights. So essentially you're making $1,000 on that arbitrage, which is a fantastic way to make money with no money coming out of your pocket. Now, these are some strategies that I've used and that have worked really well for me. And I appreciate you staying here, visiting with me. And I would love to hear strategies that you've seen. And if you have strategies that have worked for you or you have questions about, feel free to comment and I'd love to respond to those and answer any questions that might pop up. Also, I'd love to give you a free gift. If you go to aaronsfreetraining.com, I have on there for you a free short-term rental calculator that is foolproof, that if you enter in the numbers, it'll spit out for you whether it's a good deal or not. And that link to my free training, aaronsfreetraining.com, is on the link below. So I hope you click on it, get that free gift on me. Thank you.